Hey everyone, welcome to the last lecture on the cognitions of perception. Today I'm going to talk to you about extroverted sensation or SE. It's one of the sexiest cognitive functions, and the reason is it shows up to me as confidence. And I am an INFP. I have a weak grasp of SE, or I use it in very basic rudimentary ways. SE exudes confidence. SE is about showing up to the moment. SE is about taking action. SE is that first move on you. SE is the first one to swipe right on life. SE is the first one to talk. SE is the first one to get your phone number. SE is the first one to set up that second date. SE is the first one to do it all over again with someone brand new and ask you both out on a date simultaneously. How do I know this? I was in a relationship with an ESTP. Now remember, ESTPs and ESFPs are two of the MBTI types that are dominant users of extroverted sensation, which means that they take action consistently. This is how they live their life. And why do they take action? Because taking action is real. They trust life. They trust all that life has to offer, because what's inside of our heads is just pure imagination. And when we don't live life, we suffer our imagination. And this is exactly why SE wants to go out there and wants to figure out if reality equals imagination. That's the equation that the extroverted sensor is curious about. And every opportunity is an opportunity to test out this equation. Remember, interacting with the world gives extroverted sensors immediate feedback. And this is what energizes extroverts. Now, if you don't know the difference between extroversion and introversion, please watch this video popping right above my head. The other types that use extroverted sensation are ISTPs, ISFPs, ENFJs, ENTJs, and INTJs and INFJs. Now, in the classical Jungian theory, SE is basically a type of information. What type of information? Sensory information. You open a fridge, you spot an apple, the apple is red, it's fat, it's juicy, it's inviting. So you bite into it, you hear the crunch of the apple, you feel its juicy guts and how it stains your teeth. You feel its smooth, polished surface, and you smell its fruity smell. And you enjoy the sensation. It's not just one sensation. It's a heap of sensations that you're taking in. And Jung says that to an extroverted sensor, this entire experience is what life is worth living for. And so he describes SE users as hedonists, people who chase these sensations, anything that gives them that high. And it's not just about the selfish pursuit of chasing sensations. The SE user also wants to provide these experiences to the people around them. And so they dress well. They host big parties where they invite people. They fill that table with food, with alcohol, so as to excite the senses of the invitees. And so the SE user then feels that they can make demands of the invitees because they provided them with an exciting experience. And Jung also mentions that in order to be a hedonist, to enjoy these sensations or to expand your capacity for enjoyment of these sensations, you have to be able to bend your morals accordingly. And so ESFPs and ESTPs are often associated with these negative stereotypes of being irresponsible, selfish people who just care about their pleasure and nothing else. Now, do I agree or disagree with this definition of SE? Because all of us can chase our pleasures. All of us can be hedonists. All of us can be selfish. So if you want to understand the difference between a DOM SE user and someone like me who is an INFP and has SE as a trickster, you'll have to understand the many facets of SE, and that's what I want to cover in today's video. Now, before I get into the nuances of SE, all I want to say is that all of us use all of the cognitive functions, but we do have preferences, and these preferences are what the MBTI system wants to explore. know. And remember, no one can know what cognitive functions you prefer. So please don't turn to typing experts or typology gurus to help you with figuring out your type. You have to educate yourself about cognitive functions. And I'm going to link up all the resources in the description box so you can get on this journey with me. Now, what do I mean by a preference for a particular cognitive function? Remember, all cognitive functions are competing for our attention. And there are certain cognitive functions that we seem to value more, that we seem compelled to attach ourselves to, that take up more of our time and attention. And it's these preferences or these compulsions that produce different behaviors amongst us. And it's these compulsions or these preferences that make us heterogeneous. So I'm talking to you about SE dominants like ESFPs and ESTPs who tend to pay attention to sensory information. Now, all of us pay attention to sensory information. It's how we get through our day. It's a survival skill. But it's what more the extroverted sensor does with their SE other than gathering information. That's the stuff that we want to examine today. So in understanding this, I'll present some stereotypical uses and behaviors of those who are SE dominant. And this is where you can notice the differences between an SE dominant, such as an ESFP or an ESTP, and types that use SE, but they resist SE because they prefer their introverted function more. And those types are INTJs and INFJs. Now remember, both SE and SI are concerned with sensory information, but the orientation is different. SE is extroverted and SI is introverted. SE is objective. To the SE user, the apple is a red apple that is juicy and crunchy. But for the SI user, the apple is something more. It's not just red and juicy, but it's also the apple that grandma cut up for the SI user when the SI user was in 4th grade. So the SI user attaches this sentimental value to the apple because the apple represents grandma. The apple represents happiness that the SI user felt when grandma came home to meet the SI user and cut up an apple for the SI user. So the SI user keeps going back to the apple whenever the SI user wants to remember grandma. This doesn't mean that SE users don't think about their past or they don't think about their grandmothers. Far from it. But what Jung wanted to say in his book Psychological Types is that for an SE user, the objectivity when it comes to sensations is they want to be open to receive as many sensations as they can. They want to be open to new experiences. They don't seek familiarity. Now, another way to look at the difference between an SE user and a DOM SI user, such as an ISFJ or an ISTJ, is that the SE user is more interested in tracking the variables in their environment or the variables in different sensory experiences, whereas the SI user is more interested in paying attention to the constants in their environment. And what do I mean by that? Going back to the example, the apple is, yes, it's red, it's juicy, it's crunchy, and I'm going to enjoy this apple, but the apple also reminds me of grandmother. Now, the memory of grandmother is a constant. The happiness that you felt the day grandma served the apple to you is a constant, and the SI user is going to hook onto this constant because this constant makes the SI user feel comfortable, makes the SI user find comfort in familiarity. But for the SE user, the stimulation doesn't come just from remembering grandmother. The SE user is stimulated by other things that are changing in the SE user's environment. For example, the SE user is curious about the noise coming from outside of the house. Perhaps there's a squabble, and the SE user jumps out into the balcony and wants to know what's going on outside of my apartment. What is the squabble? How did it get started? What did I miss? How did all the tension build up between this couple that's fighting outside of the house? And then the SE user's phone beeps and they find out that there's a new restaurant that's launched in the city. And then the SE user makes plans to head to the restaurant and find out what's going on there. So as you can see, the SE user's attention is diverted, it's scattered, whereas an SI user wants to hone in on one experience and really anchor themselves to that experience. So this is the objectivity that an SE user demonstrates. They're open to new experiences. They don't want to restrict themselves. They want to have the freedom to explore as many choices, as many experiences as they possibly can, but they are not impractical. SE is very grounded in reality. It's not going to be floaty and imaginative and chasing abstract possibilities like a DOM NE user, such as an ENFP or an ENTP. Now, to understand how NE works, please watch this lecture. So here's an example to demonstrate the difference between lead SE and lead NE. I want to start a new school. Lead NE is going to say, why must children be educated by teachers? Why can't a child educate other children? To which the SE user is going to say, that's outlandish. It doesn't make any sense. How can a child have the expertise to teach other children? And how can children control other children? It's going to be pure chaos. Instead, what I'm going to focus on is redesigning the classroom. I want to make sure that children don't feel like they're stuck in their classrooms. So I'm going to have a lot of glass windows which are circular and big, with views of trees and green fields. So these windows let in light, and the ceiling also is made of glass. So children can view the sky and they feel that they're outside of the classroom and not constrained inside the classroom. Now, let's explore some of the stereotypes surrounding extroverted sensation or SE. SE DOM users such as ESFPs and ESTPs are often called risk takers. They jump into action. They learn by doing. Does this mean that SE users don't think about their actions? Of course not. They do think. They are informed by introverted intuition, or NI, which looks at the implications or the consequences of a particular action. But the SE users have NI in the fourth position, the inferior position in their ego, which means that there is this resistance that they have with their inferior function, NI. Remember, all of us have a very tense relationship with our last function, which is often called the inferior function. So the SE user is aware that if you make that first move, you can risk facing failure, facing rejection, facing embarrassment, wasting your time, your effort, everything. But they still do it because they understand that life is just a heap of experiences. Life is filled with obstacles that you need to overcome. Why? Because the lesson that you get from these failures is invaluable. So it's not just the experiences that they're chasing, but also the wisdom that can be accrued from these experiences. So this is what makes SE DOMs open to experiences, open to failing, open to feeling nervous, open to winning, open to feeling excited, because these sensations are what keep us alive and they wouldn't have it any other way. SE dominant users are going to be direct in speech. There's not going to be any prevarication when it comes to stating what they need or what they want. They are going to go after what they want immediately, because an SE DOM understands that if you don't act on your volitions, somebody else is going to grab what you want. SE DOMs are going to be aware of their surroundings. They're going to be tracking body language, behaviors, if there are conflicts happening around them. And if they need to step in, they will do so. SE DOMs are not afraid of confrontations. They're not afraid of using aggression if required in a particular situation. SE DOMs are going to be intense and involved compared to SI DOMs, who have a tranquil air about them because they're going to keep to themselves, because they want to preserve their energy and they don't want to squander it like an SE DOM. SE users really value attaining their goals acting first. And so in romantic relationships, they tend to be attracted to SI users because SI users are more likely to be obedient, more likely to receive instructions from the SE users. And SE users realize that obedience is important to attaining goals. So INFPs, if you're watching this video, I really urge you to find SE DOMs, befriend them, date them if you're missing out on that excitement in your life. If you're too attached to your comforts and want somebody to shake things up for you, find an SE DOM right now. Alright folks, that's a wrap. Until next time, don't get complacent. Love you, love me, love Mademoiselle Venus.